So, we covered a lot about callback functions, right? And what are the examples of some callback functions that you have used till now? Click. Okay. So let's say when we are passing functions, we break them into two categories. In one, we have like sync functions, like the ones with filter and map, which just happen right away. And then on the other hand, we have like with set timeout and then click handlers, right? Which happen after a while, right? So let's start with that part a little bit. So you have, let's say, a button, right? And it has some theme, right? Get it over here. How do I access this button? How do I access this button? Yeah. This?
But did you give the ID? Yeah. No, you can get okay.
This might, I think. Let's say just create a simple ID for it for the time being. Right? Button. And how do I listen for a click on this guy?
Function.
Dot what?
You want to click and do something, yes?
On the function.
Yeah. Click. Then what? So let's say I'm creating a function in place for this, right? So let's just see if it works, right? Hello. Sorry.
Because the script should be after the button.
Be after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Why should the script be after the button?
Because it's running.
Because
they usually, I don't know why, I faced the same problem, but I didn't know why it should be after the button.
Because it's running the button first and then it's reading the script, like the code of the script. It doesn't make any sense. You should like run the code of the button, like you are already created a button, and then it will read, like we create a function and we create an event.
What about the style?
What about
what style works with XP for the elements?
Where do you put the style usually?
Like.
Yeah. Do you know the difference between head and body? What's the difference? Yeah.
The body is the
Anyone have a type character? UCC?
Yeah. Again, what's the difference?
the body is the execution of the HTML. So whatever you put inside the body is what you gonna see on the.
If you put script in the bottom, it don't change your HTML parameters. If you put in the top, it can change the HTML and other results.
Okay. Coming close, but not.
Our mind is,
No, I want more.
In this case, when you have a head, actually it's controlling the body.
So basically, the script should be in the head, right?
That is right. I mean, and the information comes from top to the end. It's read from top to the end. If you put the button on the below the script, the information is down. The script doesn't reach to the information.
So let's say, so now when the script is under the button in the body, right? Now I don't have any errors, right? Now it's fine. It works, so it can see it, right?
Hey, because
I'm not done yet. Now you're saying, if I move it over here, right? Would it work or not?
What's happening? Yes, it works.
It will work.
Yes, it works.
But why?
Okay.
Maybe because
So-
the script should be in the last line.
no, I got
In the last line.
Have you guys used the window.onload thing? Window.onload.
I think that.
Have you used this thing? No? Okay. So the thing is, okay, let me just show you. Right. Let's do this. Okay.
You're still having the button in the script position.
Yeah.
No, it's
And sorry. Is it this one? It is. Window.
Yeah, it's equal function.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not got too much
10 points.
yeah into the callback. Yeah. Right. So it says load after a while. If I move this underneath, good. But I haven't changed anything. Right. And with that, it doesn't matter. Like even if I move it over here, it should just still work. Right. So the thing is, like, the body part of the HTML document is streamed pretty much top to bottom. It's like from the server to your browser, it's like coming line by line by line. So something which is at the bottom cannot see something which is before it, right? And the head is like another unit. It's like you don't start loading the body until you have loaded all the head. So it's like putting a break, and within the head you have again like similar order of execution in a different matter. What we did with window on load is that we wait till all till the window object has loaded, which waits for the body and the whole HTML document to complete streaming to your browser. So that's why if you have this as a safeguard, then it doesn't matter where your script is placed. It will wait to run after the rest of the things have become visible. Right?
Okay, but my question was why the problem happens with JavaScript and with like CSS? Like when you start something, you don't. I've never used Windows on that.
Because it's like styles are loaded into the scope, and then each element which keeps matching a rule of the style keeps getting styled. It's not like styled is applied at a certain point later. Hmm?
So the body just inhabits what is being told at the head. When you stand, you link your style just CSS.
You can also link it later as well, if you so want. What will happen then is that because the style hasn't loaded, when the page starts loading, it will look unstyled till the CSS loads. So that's why you load it usually also in the head, so that it doesn't, like, there's no time in which the page looks unstyled.
So that will happen when you have low information. The HTML loads first and then because the pages.
It's because some the programmer of that site might not have followed this rule or not paid attention to it, so this style is indeed loading later on. Yeah.
And when you put the script the head or on the top of the body, before all the elements inside get executed, it tells you the error at the event listener. There is no other event listener of null, so it's of something that is not declared before. So it has to be called before, because you are asking document get element by ID of something that is not even executed before the script.
Yeah, but it like in terms of like our situation here, it doesn't differ so much if you don't have window on load, if the script is over here in the body still above the button, or if it's in the head still above the button in a way, right? Because in both cases, like, it does make a difference in some other cases, but not over here. Right?
Yeah, but what comes first on uploading with the HTML?
Yeah, it means that you have basically received this tag, so you're not expecting any other thing to be loaded. So this will fire at that point.
So after the HTML is loaded, then the script gets loaded.
Excuse me, question. What is the first click here
What do you mean? This?
in a line 5? Yes.
It's the event that you're listening for. It's the click event. Because you can have different, right? You have like we did with like the mouse had move event, like enter, focus, all those things. So you have to choose which one, right?
You find them
Okay.
in the internet.
Yeah. So this works fine, right? So then we had done the loading data part last time, right? We had used the fetch and we had used the what was it? JSON placeholder. Yeah, this guy, the fake API, right? And you also had kind of the code for it as well, like the fetch which works to load. So we'll just copy it over here. This one, as you can see, it will load only one to do. Okay. Let's refresh it. Right. So now pay attention to like the order of which things are happening. So you get the load pretty quickly. Everything loads, right? Then you get the click, and then you get the JSON being loaded over here, right? We can even make a pause over here. So we say, did everyone understand how we're loading data through fetch the last time? Did anyone have problems with this part? So let's say before we do console log JSON, we do console log received data. Right? Load, click, receive data, and then you're console logging it. Okay. What?
It's my task. We was talking, me and Joanna, about this problem. When you're asking to fetch from an external web page, and you get that JSON file, so it's something that is come from a server. So if you want to console it, you have to stringify it in order to see it in your web page. I mean, now you get the object. You see, you get the object. Now you get the object.
Did you guys forget to do this part?
No.
You had done this.
No, this part of when you console log JSON, you see, you're asking him to console you the data inside that file, that URL, that response.
Yeah, this is actually an object. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an object.
Yeah.
Okay. If you try to do it with the file that you gave us, that we took from the API, give you what do you give you? Huh?
So you have to add a JSON parse in between there?
Stringify, because there is an object.
Okay.
Yeah. We cannot even see the file, I think. It was an error? It was an error, yeah. It doesn't give you anything. It say something, I forgot the invalidation, that the error that it thrown, I don't know.
Okay, we'll look into that then. Okay, now I have a question. So you have this load function over here, right? If I console log something here, when would it appear in this flow? Yeah. So you have load, click, receive data, and then receive data, and then you print the JSON. If I say, when will it appear? Over here.
When it will disappear?
Yeah. When will this console log show up?
I think receive data, because it takes time to fetch. I found this problem as well. When you call two function, one of them is the function that fetch you the from outside, from an external link.
Yeah, fetching data takes a little bit of time, and it happens after you do the click, right? Yeah. So it happened later. This one is not the same as this one. I mean, this is just a to-do/1. That's just the URL. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it will just print one, right? Like if I do console log 1, I'm just doing this, right? It will just print 1 at a certain point. I'm just asking, where would that print 1? After which one would it print 1? After all of them? Okay. Who says after all of them? Raise your hand.
After the receive data, it will console.
Okay. So let's reload the page, right? Let's see it.
Because now if you click, then it goes down. If you click it,
And if I click, then what?
yes,
Would it?
one goes down. Now
It doesn't go down. It has already happened. Yeah.
okay. So
Hold on. You call it console log outside the function.
Yeah.
no.
So you don't need to call the function. Give you.
Yeah, because it doesn't depend on pushing the button, right?
After the push.
So it works fine. Okay. So let's say, like, if I print over here now, which is it inside the 10? No, yeah, it's inside the fetch. Right? So log 2. Okay, when will 2 show up over here?
If you refresh, you have just only one. Then if you click, you will have this information and then 2.
I think it will log you the 2 first after the click.
Hmm?
I think I will.
It's inside the fetch now.
It's just because
Sorry, I have the wrong indentation. It's should be indented like this. Yeah.
It's inside the function now, and the function.
but not really sure.
Okay, I will ask. Would it print after load? Okay, would it print after one? After would it print after click?
I must say
Would it print after receive data? Okay.
I must say after
With-
click, I don't know.
So you have four options like after load, after one, after click, after receive data. So you have to put your 1, 2, 3, or 4 fingers up so I can see like who 4.
Before, could you put the actual
Can you load one, click, receive data? Where? After which one? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
after click?
4.
Hold on. Could you go to network? Network?
No, we're not going to network. We don't need to look at the network to figure this out.
I think because it takes
No.
after click.
Okay, so you're for 3. Okay. So let's see. So you get load 1. Okay.
Because it takes time.
Yep.
It's not the log.
By the way, the internet is super fast. By the way, the internet is super fast.
Yeah, I know. But
First of all, it doesn't matter how fast the internet is. Really, pretty much doesn't matter because the time which JavaScript takes to go from one line to the other, unless you're going through an array of like tens of thousands of elements or something, it will always be 1 or 2 milliseconds, or even less than that, possibly. Whereas your network will take at least, like if I don't know how fast the network would be, it would still take at least 80 milliseconds, mostly 300, 500. But even that doesn't matter. What you have to think of is that this is an operation which takes some finite amount of time, right? JavaScript is not going to wait for that. It's just going to move on. It will start that process. It will not block itself. It will just move on. It will print that. Whenever that happens, yeah. Okay, so now do you guys understand why we've been focusing a lot on callback functions? Because of this control that we get on, like, we can start many things. Okay, this can happen whenever we get the data, right? Otherwise, just imagine that if you didn't have a way of waiting or like knowing when the data is loaded, right? Then you would have to say, okay, something which says that, data loaded, you would constantly check it. If data loaded is true or not. And then when it's true, then you would be able to do something. I can understand, like, you would need to do the control flow manually because you would have no way to execute something at the end kind of automatically.
For example, if I want to log out data loading finished after it finishes loading, where do I put them?
You want to do what?
Like, if you want to log data loading finished, for example, like when everything is finished loading.
Yeah.
Will it actually log out after it's loaded?
Yeah, you can say it.
Finish loading.
That's it. Enter data. So you do receive data, print the data. Okay. Make sense? Okay. So it will take some time to get used to reading it, but so you have to figure out like which function is like what's like part of one function, what's part of like another function, because now we have like 3 things going on. We have first load happens, then the click happens, and then the fetch happens, and each one of them has their own. And do you guys know what is scope in JavaScript?
What?
Scope. Have you heard this word?
I know what the scope is.
What is the scope?
The scope?
Yeah.
When you look
No, scope, not telescope.
When you go to buy ice cream.
That's a scope.
I guess it's like focusing on one element on the others.
Yes, you're getting close. You know the concept of the word, but like in English, but how is the concept in JavaScript?
No idea.
It's like the accessibility of some
Yeah. When you say global scope, what do you mean?
global scope is declared outside, so you can use it anytime you want. But what's the other scope? The local scope is only accessible when where you declared it in a function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you guys gone through local and global variable concept?
Yeah.
Okay. What's a local variable?
It's only used inside this function.
Okay. Okay. So let's explore that here, right? So we get this JSON, right? So let's say we do, let's comment out these for now. I think we've understood this concept, right? Let's say, should we, let's say I do const, right? Data is equal to JSON, right? Cool. So instead of console log 2, if I do console log data, would I be able to read it?
No.
Why?
Because it's inside another.
What
It's supposed to be
First, it should be calculated, then.
Okay.
Wait, can you scroll a little bit?
yeah, it's all inside.
No, that's inside that.
Okay. Who thinks it will show up this data? Raise your hand. Okay. Who thinks it won't show up? Raise your hand. Make up your mind quickly. It will show up.
No.
Okay. Is there one problem here, or there are two problems here?
There are two problems. The first one that you will leave the assignment after the console log. So you say data is not declared. So
It is declared.
I think it will show up.
No, it's not.
Okay.
you will not. You will give
So let's run it. Okay. So 2 arrives when we click on the button, right? Data is not defined. Okay, so data is not defined, right? So let's say instead of defining it here, we just assign it here, and we define it over here, right? So now the scope is correct, right? So if we define it over here, then it should be accessible over here, right?
No, you need to call it before the
Can you scroll a little bit to see where it goes?
So you have the
You don't need to give it any value to that.
okay. So I also need to do let. Nobody told me. Should have told. You can't assign something into a const. Come on, guys. It's totally not my mistake.
Now
Yeah.
you will say that data is not declared instead of defined. Now you define it, but it's not declared. It will give you nothing. Because even though it's inside, you're just asking the console log to show you data and have a reference null. No, nothing. It's undefined. It give you an undefined.
Okay. Does somebody have any other opinions from other?
Undefined. Data is undefined. So undefined. It will console you undefined.
It will get undefined. Would it be the red error like before, or would it just say undefined? Okay, undefined. Now we're getting it. So why is it undefined though? Because I assigned it to JSON.
Because it's like it's the data, the variable data is local variable.
You define it locally.
No, I defined it over here.
The function.
I declared it. Sorry. Okay.
You assign the data locally inside the fetch, not globally. So
No, okay, okay, I thought. Hold on.
That's not how it works.
If you let the
Okay. Let's go for a let's say slower example. Yeah. Let's simplify it, right? Okay. So let's declare something like, something like this. Fine. Let's declare a function. Let's say we call it changex. So it's very clear it's what it's doing. And let's say it does x is equal to 20. Right? Let's say I call it changex. And let's say I do console log x.
It will give us 20.
No.
Okay. All the people who say x will be 0 raise their hands.
No.
Zero. Zero.
Yes, 0.
Okay.
or
Oh no.
Okay.
You guys said you understand local and global variables, right? You said you understand it, right? What is x here? Is it local or global? Then
The second one is local because it's inside the function.
did I declare it again here? No. So that means I'm still accessing the global one. Okay. Yes. So that's why it should be 20. But most people said 0. But we can't deny reality. Okay, what will happen now? What would this say now?
Because you are declaring x equals 0, and then you call the function. So before the log, you call the function, and the function have x change because it was global. So then
I don't care about all of that. Would it be 0 or 20 here?
0. Now,
Okay, how many people said 20? Raise their hands now. 20. Nobody thinks it would be 20.
Hold on. Let's
Hmm? No, I don't care about maybes. How many think it would be 20? Raise their hands. You know?
Yeah, because you're calling a console log x. Yeah, it's 0.
20. I go for 20.
Everyone else for 20? Yeah. Yeah.
You are declaring two variables.
you will access it to the x by the function, but this time you make a new variable inside of the function. So when you write a console.log x, just you will.
No, that the console log.
Something else is happening. Look closely.
The console log in this case are confronting two variables, one local and one global, and we show you global.
Look,
That's what it
look. First of all, okay.
okay, it's okay.
So look, this console log, okay, doesn't care what other functions are doing, okay? All it cares is that when the time comes over here, right? Is there anything in its scope which is called x? If there is, what is its value? Okay. So the thing is, there's this for the root scope, right, we have this thing called the window object, right, which is the named scope in this case. You can't really do that later on. So instead of printing x, let me just print this over here, right? So I'll just show you what this window object contains, right? Okay, it takes a while. It will contain a lot of things. It contains, all these listeners
Attributes.
which you were using, right? But it doesn't contain x. Okay. Well,
The attributes.
Thought it would be here. Okay, yeah, that would be smarter. Isn't it? Aren't we?
Try to change the direction.
Use bar.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Latin.
Or stuff.
Yeah, mixing two things. Okay, but fine. Let's ignore that then, and let's go back to our nice let. Right. So, but yeah, like var is what assigns it to the global scope when it's at the right place as well. It's not. There is issues with it as well, particularly this. Okay. All right. So let's say I do something over here as well, and I do console log y. What would I get now? Now it needs to be faster. Why is y10? Is everyone here? Okay. Yes. Calm down. This is the problem with var, because when you don't write let, okay, then it's basically when I just did y equal to 10, it's pretty much the same as doing var y equal to 10. Var actually assigns it to the global scope if it's not present locally. So please don't do it. Now you have seen the problem, right? Now this is annoying because this looks like it should be local because you're declaring it over here, but var actually does like a fallback kind of like, it makes it actually, it's basically making it a global variable over here, even if though you have declared it. This is global.
Functional outside.
It's automatically global, yes?
But that's anyway.
No? Oh, okay. If you don't declare anything, then it's global.
Oh yeah.
That's very weird.
It's the reason you shouldn't use var because it's just confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're saying if you just assign anything to a number, it's usually global without like writing var let or.
Exactly. I think var used to do the same thing, but they have corrected it at some point. But it used to be like this, that if you do this, then you would have it declared globally, and then it would make no sense. So always, it's not.
You can declare any variable at any time and it will decide if it's local or global.
Well, when you're accessing something, then you wouldn't know where does it come from. It is better to know precisely where it comes from instead of like some other library. You imported some library, and let's say the library created like hundreds of global variables, and now you also mistakenly have something which sounds similar. Well, you wouldn't know like which one you're gonna access at any given point, right? So this is nice, right? That will actually help you raise an error that it's not defined. Okay.
Why inside the function is on the variable the first time that you're calling it?
This one or this one?
Second one.
This one?
Yeah.
But I just accept the fact that
Yeah, because it is declared only in this scope. That's
But it's inside the function inside the function.
yeah, it's only visible inside the function. It's not visible outside the function. It's only visible over there. That's what we call a scope.
Oh, okay.
It has local scope now, does it?
Hmm?
It's defined locally, so it has a local scope now. It doesn't have a global scope.
Yeah.
That's somehow
Okay. Let me also show you a very common gotcha, which is also very painful. So you remember when you're writing a for loop. Wow, that's ugly. Yeah. Well,
To return y, and then you console it. It will give you the value of y.
what? Sorry.
If inside the function after that you write return y, and then you console it, it will give it to you.
No. You're not saving the output of this function into anything. Because that would mean that this returns your value. If you don't save that value, it's not persistent. Yeah. So when you do this at like
So
and
the console log is just calling variables globally.
no, it depends where console log is.
Yeah, I mean now.
Yeah. Any function would only access things in its own, in the global scope or its own scope. Okay. So you know this is a very common way of writing stuff. No, because look. No, because look. Yeah, this actually makes it a. So please don't do that. Please do this, right? Because when you didn't say let or const in front of it, or even var now. Yeah, but this loop runs, and in the end, the value becomes 20. No, that's when the loop stops. So it's 20. So I is no longer less than 20. So the loop stops.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
he's right.
The condition says I is equals to 0 and I is less, like strictly less than 20.
So that okay. So when it's 19, right?
Yeah, it's just out of 19.
It does I plus plus,
Yeah.
and it becomes 20. So the next time it doesn't run.
So it arrived to 19 less than
Unless
20.
you arrive at this point, it wouldn't fail. So that for it to fail, I has to become 20.
So if you say
For it to stop. Yeah.
if you say I is less or equal to 20, then it's 21.
No, then it would still be 20. No, it would be 21. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, in that case, yes, it would be.
That's 21. It will be 21.
Yeah. Okay. So, but what I was focusing on is just the ending value of I. That's what it is. You would still go through 20.
Could you put I
No, because that wouldn't help with anything. No. Okay. So, okay. So there's two things happening here. Okay. So in just this example, we have explode scope. Okay. This is one thing, and we've done it like very, very briefly. Mostly, if you haven't had issues with it, it's because of luckily we have let and const, which take care of most of the things. Before, when there was only var, and even without using, actually we had to focus much more on teaching this as well, because it was, as you can see, quite painful. But what becomes like so, but this will still remain important once you start declaring your own objects. Particularly, it will become even more important. But what was happening over here is there were two things happening. First of all, okay, you had the scope. So scope wise, this is correct, right? It's declared over here, then it's getting assigned somewhere inside. It's not problem. It's not a problem. Something outside is a problem. Something inside is not really. It still would be visible. Okay, so that's fine. But the issue over here is that the order of execution, that you try to console log it before it has the chance, right? So if let's go back over here, let's reload it, right? So I press on the button, it says undefined, line 18, okay? But it's not because that it's a problem with the scope, because if I do console log data over here, what should I get? Should I get undefined or data? Okay. So I do get it. I get it from line 16, which is this one. I don't get it from line 18. And look, sorry, line 19, because line 19 runs way before the data has been received. So it's not a scope problem. It's just the order of execution. The two of them combined become a little bit more problematic, of course. Right?
So if you remove the net from the initialization of
Yeah.
variable,
What will happen now?
and then you put all the outside of that function, it still works.
What's going to happen now?
Undefined.
No, you get the reference error. It's not defined. Okay. And you get it straight over here. And look, it doesn't blow up your function. You actually, okay, look at it. You actually, this console log is printed. Why is it printed over here? Because of this. This becomes the declaration plus assignment over here.
What if we remove console dot log on line 16?
This one?
Yeah.
I mean, no, that works over here. This is from the.
Yeah, but if we remove it from here, because we have declared, like we have asked it to console log after 19.
19 gives you an error already. Because this runs before this. Okay, look at it closely for a couple of minutes. Tell me if there's any doubts.
The data at line 19 doesn't really refer to the data that is inside the function fetch, right?
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is, if I had declared it over here, it would refer, but it would just have been too late.
If you define a data and something like that, does it affect the function fetch? No.
No. No, it doesn't affect. It's fine. So okay, keep looking at it. Raise any more doubts. I'm gonna add one last example before we go for lunch, and I want you guys to think about it really hard. Yes, our good friend said timeout is back. Was it function first? No, yeah, function first. Yeah. Of course, what will we have? We'll have some log data. Okay. It doesn't. Yeah, I'll just remove these guys. Okay, yeah, now everyone can see the whole thing. So now tell me, what will line 19 give me?
It depends on how much.
No, I don't want the reason. We will discuss the reason first. First, I want the answer. Just think about it.
It should be the give you the JSON, the data. But you have to know how much time it will take the function inside to execute before you get it, because you don't know if it take 1 second.
Given the guarantee that the fetch will happen in less than a second, would I see data here or not?
Yeah, it will take.
Would this be data or would this be undefined?
No, he will give you.
It would be data.
I don't know.
And remember this. What did this give you? It gave undefined, right? But would this give you data or undefined?
In my opinion, if you wanted to run, you need to delete that console and plug that up before, because it would run before, it would like read it line by line, and then it will execute the console.log. And then it will go down. I don't know, I'm not sure, of course, I'm not sure if I'm right. But then it will go down and run the data again after.
But is that a problem? You can access a variable any number of times. 1 gazillion times.
Yeah, but it's outside of it.
But the second one actually goes to other.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is complicated because it's meant to be. So all of you who say that it will show data, raise your hand. Okay, all of you no, you have to raise your hand now. Okay, all of you who think it will say undefined, raise your hands now. Obid, data or undefined? I need everyone to raise their hands now. No, it has to happen faster.
It will run the data after 1 second. It will show it, but just 1 second, not after 1 second.
Okay, look at it carefully now. Okay, are you guys clear why this happens exactly, or who doesn't understand why this happened?
I thought you should see exactly like callback.
But why did we get undefined here, and why do we don't get undefined here?
After taking time and it is printing.
Yeah, exactly.
It waits for 1 minute or 1 second.
1 second. Yeah.
Before that, it
Then it calls again.
Yeah.
Because it runs after 1 second or 1
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
That fetches.
Okay. So in this case, both the scope and the order of execution are correct. You break either of them, you're not gonna get the output, right? I'm not saying that you should do set timeout in order to get data or something like that. No, this is just an example, just dealing with like delays, because we haven't done this before. Okay.
If you do 300.
Yeah, actually.
3 seconds.
We give you undefined or
maybe not. Let's make it like unrealistic. Okay. So no request really happens in 30 milliseconds.
less than.
You get undefined this time because it was just too little time. That's all. Okay, it's not like logically an issue. It's just reality. Yeah. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. You actually wait. You detect. You add it into a control flow. You don't estimate, because sometimes the user does not have network. It will wait for 2 minutes and then fail. Would you stall all your program for 2 minutes? I don't think so. So you figure out a way to understand when what has happened. That's where we're going towards. That's what more of what you do in JavaScript 3. That's where we started, things like clicking button and on load. So we're going more toward event-based programming now. Right. Cool. Let's have lunch now.